Couple of weeks ago, I made a video going over features coming in 7 Days to Die 3.0, but I must solemnly come to you, my loyal viewers, my replica clone trooper helmet in hand, and apologise. I was wrong. But in a fun way. Turns out a lot of the stuff I told you about in that last video isn't coming in 3.0, but actually 2.5. Which is actually coming in early December. I shouldn't have assumed that the content they were showing was coming for 3.0, but that was because that's how they've always done it previously. They've never done major content updates as minor updates like 2 point something. It's always been building up to one big update. Regardless, that's not really important. I just want to make a video to set the record straight, since if I've made a video with 100k views worth of minor misinformation, I can at least do a follow-up to clarify my mistake, share the good news, that basically there's going to be a good update in December. Yeehaw, fun pimps, good shit, I guess. Now, to be clear, the bandits are not coming in 2.5. That is still 3.0, not coming in December as far as I can tell. So why don't we go over some 7 Days to Die 2.5 news, everything that's coming in it, including some news that wasn't in the last video. Oh, and by the way, not all of this is guaranteed to be in 2.5. I'll go over at the end what the Fun Pimp's current estimates are for the release of all of this content. But most of it at least has a chance of being in 2.5, and that's really the best I can work with right now. So a big issue a lot of people had with 2.0 was actually the visuals of the Plague Spitter and the Frostclaw zombies, the major complaint I saw being that people thought they were too fantasy for this game's general vibe, and honestly I can't disagree, they do give the vibe of something you'd see in an overhaul mod. Well, those aesthetics are being replaced in 2.5. The Plague Spitter is going to be looking like this. They're essentially bringing back our old friend the cowboy zombie, with the goal of being more lore friendly. And yeah, I think this definitely looks better than the Egyptian mummy thing we currently have going on. Good job, TFB. Then we have a replacement for the Frostclaw, one Mr. Chuck. I get it, Fun Pimps, because he throws things. Yeah, and he seems to just be an absolute unit. I do find it quite funny that they evidently don't want to make new animations for this zombie, so they've built this guy to have a comically big body warmer to give him the weird proportions of the Frostclaw in a more realistic way, and I think that's actually quite creative. I'm not sure if our man Chuck here is supposed to be anything in particular, like is that body warmer specific to an occupation or something, but maybe he's just meant to be a massive guy with a big jacket. Definitely an improvement for immersion over the Frostclaw, at least in my opinion. So one of the features I didn't cover very extensively in the last videos was the third-person camera, and this feature is something that we've been waiting for a while, unless you happen to be part of the 7 Days to Die PvP community, in which case you've been hoping it's not coming for a very long time now. If the Fun Pimps are smart, they will of course add a server-side toggle for that so that PvP players can't abuse it. Regardless, we've seen some footage of it in the past, and it looks like pretty much what you would expect from a third-person camera in a video game. And on PC, you can actually access a rudimentary version of it using console commands, but it's not really fully animated, and the hit reg is horrendous. One of the most talked about features that is coming back to 7 Days to Die is empty jars. Now, to the uninitiated, this always seems like a genuinely unhinged thing for people to care about. They're left in the comments like, who gives a fuck about these jars? The jars were kind of just the mascot for removed features nobody really asked to be removed. So seeing the devs listen and add jars back is a positive sign as far as listening to feedback goes. There's not much to say about jars. I've seen talk on the forums from testers that they're more balanced now, and Joel has said that they're definitely more difficult to deal with. But ultimately, as far as I'm concerned, if I can bring an empty water container to a water source and fill it with water, balance is restored to the universe. That has been so immersion breaking for so long, and I hated not being able to do that. They're also returning the zombie smell feature. Basically, if you didn't know, smell was a feature in old 7 Days to Die where zombies would be attracted to you if you carried meat around. They're re-adding it. They haven't told us much more than that, but they mentioned that it's going to be bigger and better and more polished, so that'll be interesting to see if it has any real impact on the game, because I don't really think it did initially. As with the main 2.0 update, there's going to be better storms. One definite feature it looks like is coming soon is the distant storms feature. This will presumably make it so that you can see storms from further away, rather than them just appearing in your face when you cross into a biome, which is definitely a pretty crude implementation currently. This is an extremely low resolution image, but it is the only image we've been shown so far of a distant storm, and honestly, I think that looks sick as fuck. That actually might be one of the best distant storm effects I've ever seen in a survival game. It'll be interesting to see how that really works in gameplay. Hopefully it doesn't annihilate your frame rate, especially for those poor console players. They are fighting for their lives at 30 FPS. They've also mentioned weather survival editions as possible features for 2.5, but this was listed as being pretty low on the chances of actually being in 2.5 or 2.6, so don't put too much stock in it being there. They did directly reference temperature and wetness, which are yet 2 more features removed from 7 Days to Die that they seem to be adding back, which is good. There's no reason to be removing shit from this game for no real reason. If nothing else, you're retroactively wasting your own time and money invested into those features, and by extension, wasting your players' time. I suppose with this segment I should also mention that they've pretty much guaranteed biome immersion changes with updated buffs, icons, messages, and descriptions, though no actual examples were provided, unfortunately. We're going to be getting an apiary, which I assume will produce honey, and a chicken coop, which again I have to assume will produce eggs. On the outline of what the devs are thinking as far as when these features are being added, the chicken coop was only listed at like a 30% chance for 2.5, so maybe we won't be seeing that in 2.5, but the apiary was listed at 80%, so let's talk a little bit more about that one. We've seen this artwork for it showing the 3 apiary tools that I have to assume will increase the yield of the station, much like the dew collector, and again I have to assume it'll work a lot like the dew collector, passively generating jars of honey. So yeah, there's a more well-researched updated guide to everything we know is coming in 2.something, apparently in early December. The breakdown of when one of the Fun Pimps devs thinks this will all be in 2.5 and its chances are all broken down here. That said, this was like a week and a half ago, and they've since posted about the new models being confirmed for 2.5 on Twitter, so we can assume some of these are a little bit more likely than they were before. Also, as a side note, they're calling this the Goodwill update, which is just kind of funny to me. Like, yeah, that is what it is, but are you sure you want to tell us that that's what you're calling it? Shouldn't all the updates be Goodwill updates, question mark? Whatever, I'm just busting their balls. Overall, these features seem pretty good, and honestly my main focus here is the jars and the environmental survival stuff. Those are 2 things that would really help tilt this game away from just being the open world RPG with a food and water bar that it is, into an actual survival game again. The game won't be perfect with just those 2 things added back, but it'll go a long way on making this more of a survival game again, in my opinion. My only future concern, and basically also the only thing that stands in the way of me considering this game good again, is the learn by reading system. This shit is absolute ass, and I hope they eventually come up with a way to incorporate alternate crafting progression methods, because as 7 Days to Die returns to a state more comparable with its previous versions, that absolute blight of gameplay stands out more and more as one of the massive issues in this game. It's just not immersive, and it's just as exploitable as any of the previous methods they've removed under the idea of them being too easily exploited. As with most things Fun Pimps, I would recommend, if any of you are watching this, adding more options. It doesn't have to be learn by doing, but learn by reading 40 billion magazines is just never going to be immersive or satisfying for a large chunk of players. I know personally, if they fix that by adding other methods, I'd have nothing left to really complain about. 7 Days to Die isn't a perfect game, even with that feature fixed, but it's the biggest issue I actually care about that makes me prefer not to play it when possible in its current version. But alas, at least as far as 2.5 is concerned, there are no updates about the learn by reading system. At least it seems like there's a possibility that this game will finally return to its former glory, with all the nice quality of life and graphical upgrades that they've added in the past few years. If you want more 7 Days to Die news, check out this video popping up on screen. It contains some of the stuff that is actually going to be in 3.0, as well as some of the things in this video that I thought were going to be in 3.0. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.